For the first time in many weeks, Dalton trustees and Mayor Tiffany Henyard held a public meeting together, but not at Village Hall.
But you don't even have the sense to even look in our face. But you'd rather just steal our money and do what you want.
The self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, Tiffany Henyard, finds her political empire crumbling at a pace few anticipated, sending shockwaves through her most loyal supporters and critics alike. Once seen as an unstoppable force in local politics, Henyard is now grappling with a deluge of allegations, from lavish spending of taxpayer dollars to questionable leadership choices, which have rapidly eroded her authority and reputation. Reports suggest that funds intended for public services have been redirected toward personal indulgences, including first-class flights, stays at luxury hotels, and extravagant events. While Henyard claims these expenses were necessary for fulfilling her duties, critics argue they reflect a deeper issue of mismanagement and a disregard for the economic struggles faced by Dalton's residents, many of whom live in poverty and rely on the very resources she's accused of misusing. The controversy does not stop at financial missteps. Henyard's polarizing leadership style has further alienated colleagues, residents, and even some of her former allies. Accusations of surrounding herself with unqualified or loyalist appointees have added fuel to the fire, with critics dubbing her administration more akin to a personal fiefdom than a public office. From appointing a police chief who failed to meet legal qualifications to publicly clashing with the town's board over budgetary decisions, Henyard has demonstrated a defiance that some interpret as resilience, but others see as arrogance. Her critics allege that these actions have contributed to a growing atmosphere of dysfunction in Dalton, where basic public services remain strained, streets fall into disrepair, and trust in local governance has reached an all-time low. Even amidst the turmoil, Henyard's most ardent supporters remain steadfast, attributing her struggles to a politically motivated witch hunt aimed at undermining a strong, ambitious female leader. They echo her narrative that her adversaries, unable to match her influence and charisma, have conspired to tear her down through coordinated attacks and legal maneuvers. Yet, the growing body of evidence and the mounting number of investigations, ranging from misappropriation of township funds to violations of ethical codes, have made it increasingly difficult for her to maintain a narrative of pure victimhood. Despite passionate defenses during public appearances, Henyard's fiery rhetoric and refusal to take responsibility for these scandals have only served to deepen the divides within Dalton, polarizing the town into camps of staunch defenders and relentless detractors. What remains clear is that Henyard's unraveling has left the small town reeling, and the impact of her leadership choices extends far beyond the accusations themselves. The financial instability, coupled with legal battles and operational chaos, threatens to drag Dalton deeper into crisis. Yet some argue this collapse might pave the way for systemic change and accountability in local governance. As investigations into her administration continue and critics call for her resignation, questions linger about her ability to weather the storm and restore her credibility. Will she emerge as a triumphant figure who overcame adversity? Or will her political career ultimately be defined by scandals and unmet promises? For now, Henyard remains on a turbulent roller coaster of controversy that seems destined to end as quickly as her rise to power began.
Has reversed some of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's decisions. At last night's village board meeting, Henyard announced a 30-day temporary
Township chose to choose its nominees through a caucus rather than the more traditional primary election process for the first time in decades, and the political stakes could not have been higher. At the center of this change was Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who also serves as the township supervisor of Thor and is hoping to be on the ballot for the upcoming 2024 election. However, the evening at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium did not go as planned, as her political ambitions were severely damaged by this procedural error, which disqualified her. Many people view this as the biggest loss of her career. The caucus was headed by Illinois State Senator Napoleon Harris, who is the chair of the Democratic Committee in Thoron Township, attracting hundreds of locals to watch the political drama unfold. Despite the cold weather, supporters and skeptics of both candidates crowded the venue, knowing that this gathering could change the political landscape. When the results were revealed, the atmosphere was electrified, with Harris securing the Democratic nomination for the statement, which was made by the town supervisor, and successfully ousted Henyard from the contest. Was greeted with applause, and some particularly exuberant yells. It felt more like a prize fight than a typical political gathering. In a statement following the event, Henyard accused Harris and the Democratic Committee of orchestrating a plot to thwart her candidature, denouncing the caucus as an attempt to advance her candidature. Several people referred to the scene as a political MCD drop moment, with Harris leaving triumphant and Henyard shedding tears of defeat. Although the accusations sparked debate, some see Harris' claims as the last resort of a politician who has been embroiled in controversies while serving as mayor and supervisor. Harris' composure and sense of finality made the occasion resonate with unfair practices that suppressed voters. According to Kenix, the caucus followed the law and was consistent with procedures in a number of other Illinois communities, while being a unique strategy for Thorne Township, because the verdict not only raised awareness of the stakes, but also signified a dramatic change in local politics. Residents and spectators are left wondering what the future holds for the two major participants in this epic fight.
It was a special board meeting because business has not gotten done at two previous meetings, so that's some progress there. So this meeting was...
Residents of the community felt increasingly alienated from Henyard's policies, her combative attitude towards criticism, and her refusal to engage in meaningful conversations about the issues that affected their lives. Their complaints about the deteriorating infrastructure and financial mismanagement of supper public services only served to fuel the simmering resentment of those who demanded accountability, and her continued defiance in the face of mounting scandals seemed to validate their grievances. As the public outcry grew, Henyard's political future appeared more precarious than ever before. What had once seemed like resolute determination to her supporters now came across as sheer obstinacy to her crushing defeat in the caucus. This was more than just a symbolic setback for the wider electorate. It was a tangible rejection of her leadership style and highlighted their growing fatigue with the leadership style that seemed to be motivated by personal ambition. Many members of the Henyard, the gap between her administration and the public became even more apparent after her defeat, when calls for greater transparency and accountability grew stronger. Her leadership, which had once been a source of hope for change, had become a symbol of the results of political complacency and haughtiness, with every new accusation against her of extravagant spending. Henyard's decisions often left residents feeling abandoned, and her frequent dismissal of public concerns grew more pronounced. According to critics of community welfare, the community's mounting frustrations and disdain for legal requirements and financial irresponsibility led to a resolute call for accountability, which marked a turning point in the collective desire for political renewal. Her 10 years serve as evidence of the perils of misplaced trust. It seemed impossible to bridge the gap between her and her constituents as she struggled with the fallout from her defeat. Her once unwavering authority suddenly seemed brittle, making it difficult for her to stay relevant in a community that had grown tired of broken promises and incompetent leadership. Those who had previously supported her found the promise of progress to be a broken covenant, and each scandal further damaged her reputation as a leader who once took pride in her perseverance and fortitude. She and her most ardent supporters may also continue to dispute the legitimacy of the process that led to her collapse. To fully comprehend Tiffany Henyard's dramatic fall from grace, one must consider her rapid ascent to fame and the carefully crafted image that once positioned her as a rising star in local politics. She was first hailed as a visionary leader and then successfully secured dual roles as mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thorne Township, a rare combination of power that elevated her status and solidified her as a figure of immense influence. It became clear that the electorate's tolerance had run due to the stark contrast between Henyard's apparent wealth and the financial struggles of the people she was chosen to serve. This dual authority not only strengthened her but also exposed flaws in her carefully maintained facade. Among the most damning accusations was the discovery of extravagant spending, including an astounding $33,000 charged to Amazon for community purposes for Doane residents, many of whom had median incomes well below $50,000. This revelation caused a great deal of discontent. Constituents who had trusted a leader felt shocked, angry, and betrayed, and the community's outrage was evident when details about Henyard's spending patterns emerged, exposing what many believed to be egregious negligence and a detachment from her constituent concerns. One Dalton resident expressed the growing resentment among her electorate, saying it's disgusting that she's living like a queen while we can barely get by. The accusations depicted a leader living a lavish lifestyle while ignoring the urgent needs of her community. These feelings of betrayal fueled a groundswell of disillusionment, sparking calls for accountability and driving in as the political fallout became inevitable, and scrutiny increased. The accusations of misconduct not only damaged her reputation, but also served as a stark reminder of how far her leadership had strayed from the ideals she had professed. Her financial decisions became emblematic of a deeper hypocrisy, highlighting a glaring disparity between her promises of service and the self-serving reality that residents perceived in her leadership. This revealed the fragility of once formidable foundation, enhanced by their perception of the contrast between her public persona and her apparent private priorities, revealed a betrayal that caused even her most ardent supporters to lose faith in her administration. What had once been a shining example of a champion for the people, a leader hailed for her promises of integrity, transparency, and
home that she leased, Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid her rent, and now
the revelation of her alleged financial mismanagement, which caused her base of support to erode and caused a sharp shift in public sentiment among those who had previously viewed her as a beacon of hope for making a change right now, has replaced professionalism with a narrative of greed and mismanagement for many. Sager leadership is now seen as a warning against unbridled ambition and self-interest. Critics portrayed Tiffany Henyard's death as inevitable, using her story as a symbol of political excess that highlights the widening divide between the leader she claimed to be and the realities faced by the average Doane resident. The same platform that had allowed her to rise to power on promises was destroyed when Henyard's political career fell apart. She was embroiled in scandal and made decisions that not only overshadowed her achievements, but also prioritized her own comfort over the good of the community. The charges against her cemented her reputation as a controversial figure with unrealized potential. Her political demise had an impact that went well beyond her immediate sphere of influence and served as a warning that the pursuit of power unchecked by accountability can alienate and betray those who seek to leave. Doane locals are feeling frustrated and disillusioned due to the needless and politically motivated fighting that is seriously impeding the community's ability to receive effective services. They have been vocal about the negative impact these ongoing disputes are having on their daily lives, as essential projects have been delayed and basic services compromised. The emphasis has moved from meeting the urgent needs of the community to focusing on political conflicts. Whether Henyard, the Democratic candidate for supervisor of Thorin Township, is truly acting in the best interests of the people she represents, or whether her actions are driven more by power struggles and personal ambitions, the accusations against her became a focal point for change, reinforcing calls for leadership rooted in humility. According to Stephanie Wheatman, the matter reached a climax when Henyard abruptly left the campaign after just 7 minutes. This move highlighted the high financial stakes involved in this ongoing conflict, and she and the numerous other parties involved could face dire consequences, including the possibility of a hefty $40,000 fine if the deadlines for necessary permits are missed and approvals are not received. The bigger issue at hand is that taxpayers may be forced to repay funds that have already been allotted for the project, which goes beyond political scheming. According to the executive director of the Park District, if the grants and permissions expire, locals would not have access to nicer parks and safe spaces for their family. The Park District's combative and controlling leadership style has polarized the community, raised dangers, and impeded major progress on crucial projects. Furthermore, although Henyard has not been charged, the FBI's investigation into her administration is still ongoing and continues to be one of the most damaging blows to her political authority. Her inner circle, which was once steadfast in its support, is now beginning to disintegrate, with longtime allies allegedly drifting away and employee resignations fueling rumors of growing internal strife. The investigation's very existence has tainted her tenure, according to reports, and some have accused her of being malfeasant in her leadership, further undermining public confidence. However, Henyard has attempted to combat the mounting criticism by accusing her critics of waging a smear campaign in a recent heated Facebook video in which she aggressively asked why she is receiving all this attention and what they are trying to distract you from. At the same time, her political opponents have. She has further alienated the people by ignoring those who point out her inadequate administration. As seen by the increasing disputes and debates, Henyard leadership is facing both internal and external difficulties. The stakes for her political career are quite high, and every scandal that occurs only serves to worsen her already declining support as important projects are delayed and placed on hold.